Hey everybody, welcome back to my physical world. I'm going to talk about an event that the event actually happened in July, but the ramifications of that event are ramping up for some more major problems stemming from that event. Okay, so in July 21st of this year, 2025, there was a massive landslide in the Matia'an Valley in Taiwan. Okay, it's in the Wanrong Township. I'm going to butcher these names. I know I am. Okay. And it is associated with the tropical depression Guyame tropical depression. All right. And what happened was that tropical depression inundated the area with a large amount of rain and broke away a lot of the ground and caused a massive landslide. And I'm going to show you the affected area using QGIS, like I have been lately. But I want you to get the geography so far. And like I said, I'm going to butcher these names. But so here I am in Google Earth. And we're zooming into the Wanrong Township. And this right here is Hualian River coming down through here. All right, so there's Hualien City, which is up here in Taiwan. It's on the east coast of Taiwan. And the actual river comes down through here. Now, you see a lot of these rivers here, okay? Now, locally, they might have different names, but all of these branches coming off, they share the same name as the main river, okay? So this is the Hualien River, and then we have some branches coming off of here. All right, the branch that we are going to be talking about today is this southern branch. All right, and then there's kind of like a gap. There's smaller streams and stuff, and then another river starts down here. All right, so all of these rivers flow to the north and into the Pacific Ocean. All right, but we are talking about this area right here. Okay, you can see some scarring from previous landslides in the past. Okay, very mountainous area. This is actually a wetlands preserve in this area, and there's some national forests, that kind of stuff in this area. But this area has been struck by landslides quite a bit. All right. And then we have this little branch of a river coming off of this way. All right, you see that. Now, we're going to be concentrating on this area first to show you what the actual landslide looked like before and after, and then talk about the effects of what's going to be coming ahead in probably the next few weeks, the next couple months or so. All right. So that kind of gives you the geography of what we're talking about. Now, remember, this landslide happened in July. I did not report on that landslide at that time. I have no idea why I missed this one. But I didn't really miss it. I knew, but I didn't make a video on it. But the landslide was massive. If you guys remember the Blotten, Switzerland landslide videos that I did, and talked about the cubic meters of material, okay? I believe the blotton, if I remember from my memory, it was around 9 million cubic meters of material that came down the mountain. All right. And then I also reported on the Tracy Arm landslide in Alaska, which was much bigger in terms of volume. All right. This landslide that happened in Taiwan is a much larger area, but less volume. Does that make sense? It's spread over a wider area than both the Blotton and the Tracy Arm landslide, but the thickness of the material was less. Okay, so right now, as it stands, the volume from this landslide was somewhere between 1.5 million to 2 million cubic meters of material. All right, when you compare that with the Blotton and the Tracy Arm landslide, we're talking Blotton was around 9 million cubic, and Tracy Arm was around 30 million cubic meters of material. All right, but this event was wider spread. Okay, so let's take a look. Let's get out of Google Earth and let's come over here to QGIS. And I have 3 scenes that I've set up for this landslide. One is from June 15th of 2025, prior to the landslide. Okay, and that's what we're looking at here. And remember, if you guys follow my channel and my remote sensing stuff, you know that I like to look at infrared, because contrasts and details come out a lot faster to my brain. Remember, in this band combination, which is bands 8, 4, and 2, band 8 is mapped to the red channel, band 4, which is near infrared, is mapped to the green, and then the blue visible light, no, the green visible light is mapped to the blue channel. All right, so we have a band combination of 8, 4, and 2, and this is Sentinel data, not Landsat data. If this was Landsat data, I would be using probably 7, 5, and 4. Okay, but let's take a look at it. Remember, in this band combination, whether I'm using Sentinel or if I'm using Landsat data, heavy and healthy vegetation is in red. Bare earth is grays or oranges, really kind of subdued oranges, more brown. All right, but in this particular case with Sentinel, that shows up in light blues and grays is bare ground, and water is usually black. Okay, because water absorbs IR. So clean water shows up black, okay, or dark blue. All right, now you see in this particular view, you're seeing some black spots like this. Okay, that is not water in this particular case. That's the actual shadows of these clouds. Now, some of this area was not overly cloud covered, but after the event, because a tropical depression had gone through and then a typhoon had gone through, so there's still some residual clouds. But anyway, you're seeing the white puffy stuff, that's clouds, and then you're going to see some black dots basically next to those white puffy things. Those are the shadows from the clouds. but I can discern water features relatively easy, even with the cloud cover. All right. So here we're looking, here's the southern branch of the Walian River. Okay, if we zoom out, we get this little upside down F. All right, so it's the top arm there of the upside down F. This is the southern branch of the Walian River, and that leads us up the all these words. Okay, so this particular branch of the river creates the Matia'an Valley, which comes up this way. All right, so that's our geography. Remember, healthy vegetation is red, and scarred, bared ground is grays and light blues, that kind of stuff, except for over here, that's the Pacific Ocean. So this scene was acquired by Sentinel on June 15th of this year, prior to the event. And then Tropical Depression Emmy came through, loosened up the ground with torrential rain. And 4 days after the event, now this scene is pretty dark. It's dark because some corrections for light I haven't done. All right, but it's still relatively useful to see. You're seeing this dark shadow here. Now, some of these over here is kind of clouds, but you're seeing this massive area here. Okay, now when I show you the image from September 11th that was acquired, this current scene that you're looking at is July 25th, 4 days after the event. So let's turn on June. Okay, this is previous scarring from events in years past. Okay, but if I turn that off, we have this massive scar right here, and it'll show up better and even in the next video, in the next image. All right, so we have this massive landslide. Okay, this area I measured to around 8 million square meters of debris spread out, and it's about 3.5 miles long. Okay, from up here down to here, it's about 3.5, almost 4 miles. All right, so it's spread out over a large area. Okay, no villages were covered. This was more of a natural preserve area. Plus, it's a high risk zone. So, but the effects, we're going to be talking about the villages downstream here in a bit. Now, if we come back to the June image and we look at this intersection of the Walian River in the Matia'an Valley, this little intersection right here, you're going to want to kind of pay attention to this area here. So the landslide came down all the way down to about here in this area, and just inundated this area with debris. Okay, and it has dammed off this branch, this stream, this little river. Okay, so there's a little water body right there. Okay, there's a small lake that sits there. Okay, and it comes up, and then this dumps into the Walian River and then goes downstream. All right, oops, I didn't want to do that. Let's cancel that. There we go. All right, so let's go to 4 days after the event, and we look at the intersection. Here is some debris that has gone into the valley, covered this entire place, and has blocked off this river. And this, kind of like the Blotton event, water has built up behind that debris cone or that natural dam that was created, and this is starting to fill in with water. But unlike Blotton, where the water level reached to the top of the debris cone and started eroding its way through the debris, this debris cone is much higher, okay, in the Matia'an Valley. And so it's taking longer for the water to start breaking through. All right, so let's go to September 11th image and look at the size of the lake that is building behind it now. Okay, so if we go back to July 25th and we get our measuring tool here, and we'll do area, we'll measure an area. And I won't do the, let's come here and I can follow this area, and I'm doing it roughly, okay? And I'm following the edge of the newly formed lake. I won't take this down here, I'll just do this area here. So we're getting roughly 136,450 square meters of lake, okay? And that's 4 days after the event. Prior to the event, there wasn't a lake there at all. All right, so 136,000 square meters. Now, if we come to the September 11th image, and we measure that same water body as it's growing, okay? So we're going to come down here, grab this little thing over here. And I'm doing it roughly, I'm not doing it 100% precise, but I can measure around the water body. Please hold while I make my polygon here. So it is grown significantly. All right. So we're still coming around. Like I said, I'm doing this rough, but we're getting the picture here. Down here, and then we're just going to kind of do that. We have grown from 136,000 square meters to 965,000 square meters between July 25th and September 11th. So this area is, and then there's another pool starting right here. That is not a cloud. That is not a shadow cloud. The shadow of the cloud is just kind of over in this area. But this is another water body that's building up on the debris in the Matia'an Valley. Now here's where we're at now. This is what's going on now. This lake that is building up on the flanks and down this valley is going to eventually break through this debris. And it's going to break through this debris pretty quickly because, remember, like I said earlier in the video, that the volume of the landslide may have not been as big as Blotton and Tracy Arm. It's spread out over a larger area, okay? But the material is not as deep. The blockage isn't gonna be as strong as in Blotton. Because remember, Blotton, that stuff was 300 feet thick, all right? But in this area, it is not that thick. So the weight of this water is going to break through this material, and it's going to do it in a very dramatic fashion. And all of this water that's being held up here, whoops, I keep doing that measuring tool. All this water is going to be released down the Matia'an River. I mean the Matia'an Valley into the Walian River. Okay, now you see the gray. They've had a lot of this buildup is from previous landslides. All right, but all of this water is going to be released dramatically down this valley and wash out even more material, and it's going to affect all these communities downstream on the Walian River. Now, I'm not going to go through and name all the villages and things, but because I would butcher their names. But all of these populated areas are going to be affected dramatically, and they're saying this could probably happen in the next few weeks, couple months. But the landslide debris is going to give way to all of this water up here. If you guys remember, water is an amazing substance, and it weighs a lot more than you think. When you think, think about the approximate, it's not exact, but about 8 pounds per gallon. All right. And, a gallon jug is about this big and about this big, and that's 8 pounds just in that small little area. When you consider the volume of this lake, that weight is going to push this material down this valley, and it's going to affect all of these communities down here in the Walian River channel. Okay. Also, we have a bridge that goes across the river here. This is the Matia'an Bridge, Matia'an Valley Bridge, and that could get washed away depending on, the amount of material that comes down the valley. So they got a pretty dramatic few weeks coming up here in this area of Taiwan, and you might want to think about those people but yeah, it was a massive landslide. But like I said, in terms of volume, not as much as Blotton and not as much as the Tracy Arm, but there's more population going to be affected by the failure of this debris once this water has crossed that equilibrium. Okay, so that's what's going on in the world, and I will keep you updated, I hope. So please subscribe to My Physical World, hit that notification bell, and comment on this event. Please comment, make comments on this video, because that helps the algorithm. A lot of my numbers are dropping, and I understand why, but help this channel if you can, and if you are inclined to support what I do, buymeacoffee.com/myphysicalworld. And I will see you guys on the next update. See you later.